This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year we are saying thank you to therapists. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories and millions of journeys. Behind each one of them is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take that next step forward. Moments in therapy, like asking the right questions, having a safe place to get emotional or cry, or small wins, they can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. I've been doing therapy for over 2 years and I couldn't recommend it enough. It's helped me so much with relationships with my friends, families, even myself. It's helped me understand myself better, and it's just made for such a better life. It really has. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for live sessions based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This World Mental Health Day, we are collaborating with those therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off of their first month at BetterHelp.com/PFF. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PFF. Vikings and the Browns. The Vikings win this game 21-17. Comeback fashion here. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Minnesota Vikings. Defensive tackle Javon Hargrave at the top of the list with an 87.6. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson an 82.9. Edge rusher Jonathan Grenard a 75.8. Offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw doing a little bit of load management this week. Was the snap count still getting back to form, coming off of that knee injury, a 74.5. Safety Josh Metellus with a 74.3. Quarterback Carson Wentz in this one with a 67.1. On Cleveland's side of things, edge rusher Alex Wright with a 91.1. Edge rusher Isaiah McGuire an 83.4. Offensive guard Joel Bitonio 79.9. Running back Quinshon Judkins a 77.3. Tight end David Njoku a 76.9. And then Dylan Gabriel in this one in his first start, 63.0. What do we think, Dalton? Stats told the story.
I just think the Browns gave the Vikings too many swings at the plate to come back and win this game. And the Browns had 4 offensive drives, up 17-14 with a chance to kill this game. So, I mean, look, they had a lead and they have maybe the best defense in football, and, they want their defense to make as many stops as possible. But to me, it's about Brian Flores and this Vikings defense keeping them in the game despite a lot of errors. There was a Xavier Scott fumble. There was a missed field goal that would have tied the game. The Vikings were battling offensively, as you are going to against this Cleveland Browns team, but defense kept them in it. The Browns in the fourth quarter, before the final drive that ended the game, 4 punts, 74 net yards in the fourth quarter, 44 of them on that last drive. So those 4 drives I'm talking about, only 30 yards total. Punted on each of them, 51.7 offensive grade. I think a similar vibe, kind of the opposite, I should say, to what I was just saying about New England and having those veterans that can finish a game off. The Browns are really young, right? They've had the most snaps in the NFL played by rookies this season, and they just couldn't find a way to finish this game, whether it was a one last stop that they needed or, to me, offensively. And obviously, I think Dylan Gabriel played relatively well in his first start, right? He was efficient. A 63 passing grade isn't spectacular, but you know what? It's roughly the same as Joe Flacco would have given you, and honestly, you might as well play the younger guy at that point if it's even. Quinshon Judkins looks really good. All of the Browns rookies look really good. They really do. They just have to find a way now to learn how to win football games and close ones like this, because they had multiple opportunities. People will point to the last drive from Carson Wentz, and he was really good when it came down to crunch time. But to me, when you have a game where you have 4 opportunities to go and score points to extend a 3-point lead and you don't do it, there is an element where the Vikings defense and Brian Flores kept them in the game, and the Browns just couldn't finish them off.
Yeah, and I think that Dylan Gabriel's performance in this game goes into that. Now, I don't want to be too harsh to Dylan Gabriel because, again, we talked about this last week. I figured that a change was coming at the quarterback position. I didn't think there was any way that they were going to do it for an international game, and they do. So the conditions for Gabriel to start in this one weren't great. He goes 19 for 33, 190 passing yards. He had 2 touchdowns in this one. What I did like about him was when he was operating the offense, sort of in a way where he wasn't pushed too much. He had a 22.2 plus accuracy percentage, which is a well-placed ball that is also away from where the defenders are. So that's truly it's an accurate throw, but it's also like a plus accurate throw because you're basically doing everything that you can to give your receiver the opportunity to get some yards after catch. So that was the 5th best this week, that percentage that he had there. So I like all that, but On the other side of things, sort of what you were just talking about there, 6.5 average depth of target. He only had 6 passes in the entire game beyond 15 yards. 2 of them came on that last drive where Minnesota had taken the lead, so they had no choice. So in all reality, he basically only had 4 passes the entire game when it was sort of an even playing field that went more than 15 yards. He just didn't throw the ball the way you needed to win in this league. And I think that that's sort of totally fine. I think that I don't want to say that they set him up for failure, because they didn't. They were close in this game. They almost won this game. You mentioned they just kind of let the Vikings hang around a little bit too much. But to be honest, how many more points would we have expected the Browns to score with Dillon Gabriel making his first start? I think that this was probably best case scenario almost. But just the context of it is Gabriel didn't throw the way he needed to win the game. And I'm not saying he should have. All of the context around this one tells you that this basically played out exactly how it was supposed to. But they scored 17 points. Minnesota scored 21. So that, to me, was the Browns, I think, are in a really healthy place with how they're ushering in their rookies into their offensive and defensive identities. And they kind of just are what they are right now. Unless they're holding teams to less than 17 points, it's kind of hard to see the Browns winning any games. So the fact that they did score 17, I feel like you feel pretty good about where the Browns are at. It's
the NFL version of Iowa, right? And that's exactly what we're looking at. I mean, but I think, again, in the context of Gabriel, where it was hard for Flacco to push the ball downfield. Why? They're a bottom 3 pass blocking team, and
it's true.
Their only player who went over 30 receiving yards in this game was David Njoku, who probably is
tight end offense, baby.
Either him or Jerry Jeudy, or those are their 2 best receivers, and Judy's been really quiet this year, a lot quieter than last year. So, no, I think you're right, and I think, for my most impressive, I look at Carson Wentz and having to deal with this defense and just what it takes to beat this team and even score 21 points on this team, and the fact that he had to lead that late drive down the field. Carson Wentz, is it super flashy? Not really. 70.7 passing grade is solid, 236, 1 touchdown, 2 big-time throws, but a couple of things stand out to me here. One, I thought Kevin O'Connell's play calling was outstanding in this game. He knew, especially with multiple starters down on his offensive, I think 3 starters down on his offensive line against this team. So what do you have to do? Carson, get rid of the ball. 2.5 seconds flat on average. Carson Wentz was getting rid of the football. I thought the bootleg game was good to mix in. I thought there were several screens that were solid play calls just to get the defense and get that pressure off you, even if they didn't go for explosive plays. And here's a fun one too. Minnesota, when they had extra pass protection in there, right? More than 5 pass blockers. 8.1 yards per play. When they went with a standard protection, a scat protection, 5.6. So O'Connell knew, look, I got to max protect. I got to get some screens, some boots. I got to move the pocket sometimes. And if we're going to win this game, Carson Wentz has to make 4 or 5 throws that I really need him to make. He was able to do it. So I think we have to give Wentz a whole lot of credit now. 2-0 in his 2 starts, getting the Vikings back on track after a little bit of struggles, especially offensively. There's going to be a quarterback debate eventually, probably. But for now, I wouldn't even worry about that until McCarthy's healthy. We can have that argument later. I just think O'Connell and Wentz did a great job of just kind of guiding this team through against, again, arguably the best defense in football, despite the Browns being 1-4 now. Just a really good game, and I think a really gritty game for the Vikings to just get through and get a win and take a breath and come back home.
Blending a little bit of my stat that told the story into my most disappointing and sort of just what to think of Cleveland and their offense moving forward. First and foremost, the Browns run game. Judkins, 75.1 rushing grade in this one, 23 attempts, 110 rushing yards, 65.3 run blocking grade as a team, which has been better than they have shown in the last couple of weeks. So it was good to see them blocking well as an offensive line as a whole, I should say. Not necessarily everybody, but just as a whole, it was better this week. And then Judkins being able to take advantage of it was huge. The tight end passing game, I think, is something that will be a baseline for this team moving forward. Whether it's Dillon Gabriel, who's the long-term starting quarterback, whether they get Shadur Sanders in there at some point, the tight end passing game is basically what they need to build their offense through. They need to. The Browns are just going to be a heavy personnel team, in my opinion. They're going to have David Njoku and Harold Fannin Jr. on the field as much as they possibly can, because not only is that extra blockers in the blocking game for leaning on Quidshot Judkins, but the Browns' tight end passing game in this one, 82.9 receiving grade combined between Njoku and Harold Fannin Jr., 10 catches, 80 receiving yards, so half of, well, not quite half, but almost half of Dillon Gabriel's passing yards were to these two tight ends. They also had the only 2 touchdowns that he threw on the day. So very comfortable throwing to those guys. And then to sort of mix in my last point here, I would love to see Dylan Sampson getting more involved in this. I think he had 1 carry in this game is where they were. Jerome Ford had, let me see.
Only a couple.
Jerome Ford had 5 carries for 18 yards in this game. Dylan Sampson, 1 carry, -4 yards. And then Dylan Sampson, even in the receiving game a little bit, just 2 targets, 1 catch for 6 yards. I know that pass protection is an issue right now for Dylan Sampson, so they don't want him out there a ton on situations where, if you're going to be a receiving back, you probably also have to be a pretty good pass protecting back, right? That's the combination of third down duties. But however they are getting him involved, to me, this team needs to be a heavy 2 tight end, 2 running back team moving forward. They need to lean on the 2 tight end sets as a heavy part of the formation that they're going with, a good, healthy number of just offensive snaps out of a 2 tight end set, because they also need to then just lean on the diversity of what they could have in the run game. And I don't feel like they have that run game diversity quite yet, but to me, that's going to be the best version, the most efficient version of the Browns offense throughout the rest of the season as they're getting one of these quarterbacks, obviously Dylan Gabriel in there now, acclimated to being the starter for them for the long term. So that was just my thoughts overall on how I think that team could grow.
No, I agree. I mean, they're the lowest scoring team in football for a reason, right? Or tied with Tennessee because, well, they have personnel issues on offense, right? They're in the offseason, they're going to need help at offensive line and receiver, and we'll see about quarterback as the year goes on, obviously. But yeah, I think that's just fundamentally how they're going to have to play it, right? They got to slow games down and play defense, and at this point, hope they win 17-14. They couldn't do it in this game. They're going to get more cracks at it. Obviously, and that defense keeps them in just about every game they're going to play.